All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Hello, my name is Ilsa Adams. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded, will be shared with TLC-related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post questions and comments in the chat. Also, we have enabled live transcription. If you would like to use it, click the Show Captions button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Now I'm pleased to introduce you to Dr. Jackie Kyger. Yay! Dr. Kyger has been developing and teaching online courses for more than 20 years. He's held positions within higher education as faculty member, a faculty subject matter expert, a curriculum manager, and a director of programs, as well as an associate dean of information systems and technology. Busy. He has been with UAGC for 12 plus years and serves students as a full professor in the Global College of Professional Advancement within the Master of Arts in Education program. He also holds a doctorate in education, a graduate certificate in computer information systems, a master's in education technology. Dr. Kyger is the recipient of the Ashford University President's Award for Excellence in Teaching and the College of Education Dean's Award in Excellence in Teaching. So without further ado, take it away, Dr. Kyger.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Elsa, for that warm and wonderful introduction. And Rebecca, thank you for being here in the way of our technical support should we need you. Let's hope we don't. And hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I know you all have many choices for our UAGC Teaching and Learning 2025 conference. So it means a lot that you chose me, you chose this presentation. And I'd like to point out that while the research I'm sharing with you today is authentically mine, well, the visuals that you see included here, they're not. They were created using Crayon, an open source AI program that turns written prompts into images. So you can spot them by that little orange crayon, the little logo down in the corner, and that's Crayon's signature mark, or AI's autograph, if you will. And I hope you enjoy them. Since this is a presentation on my research, I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm not going to read you my review of literature. But please know this about it. Let me just say this about the review. The review synthesizes foundational research, conceptual framework, equity and inclusion considerations, educator responsibilities, instructional strategies, forward-thinking practices to provide a comprehensive understanding of artificial intelligence inclusion and the role of educators as innovators in AI-driven learning environments. There are going to be some new terms. So this conceptual research study reviewed the term artificial intelligence, and we introduce the following new terms here. And I need to share them with you because I'm going to be using them as we push through this presentation. Artificial intelligence inclusion, pronounced AII. It's a framework, a pathway. Artificial intelligence inclusion philosophy, pronounced AIIP, but properly named the philosophy of AI inclusion in education. And the last new term, artificial intelligence inclusion innovator, pronounced AIII, which is a proposed professional certification for educators. The purpose and methodology for this study offers an approach to integrating artificial intelligence inclusion, AII, in education in ways that expand the access and reduce barriers and foster belonging for diverse student populations rather than drawing from any one empirical study or specific body of data. This approach is informed by the contemporary best practices for AI in education, as is outlined in the Artificial Intelligence Playbook by Hargrave, Fisher, and Frey of 2025, their second edition in 2025. I think it's important to note that this book's first edition came out only the year before in 2024. And it'll be interesting to see if they have a third edition in 2026. And I hope they do. This philosophy is grounded in Peter Senge's systems thinking and the equity frameworks identified by the U.S. Department of Education in 2023 and is further supported by Ruby, Davis, and Hattie's 2024 research on teacher expectations. And it's all grounded in the practical AI guidance of Hargrave, Fisher, and Frey 2025. And I mentioned those earlier. As well, I introduced what I believe as one of the most important parts of this philosophy and how it is grounded in human-centered emotional intelligence work of Doctors Darwin Nelson and Gary Lowe, and then the positive psychology of Dr. Martin Seligman. Imagine that. We're talking about human-centered in artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence provides a structured approach for ethical and inclusive AI integration in education. And now that we know that, we must ask this question. Can machines think? Well, the question of artificial intelligence sounds kind of new, doesn't it? Well, it was presented back in 1950 in the form of that question, can machines think? By Alan Turing in his essay, Computing, Machinery, and Intelligence. And it's widely considered a turning point of how computer systems might think in the future. 4 decades after that, Peter Senge in 1990 asked a similar question about human systems in his book, The Fifth Discipline, The Art and Practice of the Learning Organization. How can organizations learn? From a very early age, we're taught to break apart problems. The question of systems thinking is widely considered a turning point for how organizations might consider thinking and learning in the future. Now, 3.5 decades later, here we are, 3.5 decades later, from Senge's findings in 2025, this conceptual research proposes that education also faces a turning point. Artificial intelligence inclusion represents a philosophy for intentionally integrating AI within education in ways that are inclusive, that are equitable, and learner-centered. The AII, the innovators, the faculty extend this philosophy as practitioners. They are educators who not only adopt AI responsibly, but lead its ethical and creative use, shaping classrooms where technology supports engagement and human connection. In Senge's book, he identified 5 components to innovative learning organizations. Artificial intelligence inclusion is a form of Senge's systems thinking, as it is a conceptual framework as an accumulated body of knowledge, generative AI, as well as practical tools developed over time to help users recognize underlying patterns and understand how to influence, improve, and include upon them effectively. The artificial intelligence inclusion philosophy, AIIP, builds on human-centered traditions in educational psychology and leadership. Doctors Nelson and Lowe's Emotional Intelligence, Achieving Academic and Career Excellence in 2011, their book, The Framework, emphasized learnable emotional skills such as self-awareness, empathy, self-regulation as foundations for personal and academic growth. These competencies parallel the philosophy's call for emotional and ethical awareness in the inclusion of artificial intelligence tools. Solomon's, also 2011 book, Flourish, expands the positive psychology towards the goal of human flourishing, emphasizing purpose, engagement, and well-being. Together, these inform the philosophy's system-based approach, ensuring that technology innovation in education strengthens rather than replaces human capacities that sustain learning, that sustain belonging, and sustain purpose. Both of these deeply inform what is today the culture of care here at the University of Arizona Global Campus. Okay, now as a quick side, I studied Solomon's positive psychology as an annual topic in my department's professional development in what was called the Ed Talk series. And as a result of that experience, I now am a member of the Western Positive Psychology Association. Now, regarding Dr. Nelson and Dr. Lowe's work on emotional intelligence, both of those gentlemen were doctoral professors of mine, and they have been lifelong friends ever since they were first classmates as elementary school children. I believe it was the third grade. It might have been kindergarten where they first met. That friendship has been lifelong, filled with co-teaching, co-publishing, co-creating, co-promoting, and the creation of what's called ETRI, the Emotional Intelligence Training and Research Institute, of which I have completed and am ETRI certified. I just wanted you to kind of share a little bit of that backstory with you of this as I go on in conceptual research. There are real people behind it who are very passionate and spend their whole lives in their research, so that you and I can have a conversation about it for a minute or two today. Educators are the key to ensuring AI is both inclusive and innovative. Artificial intelligence inclusion goes beyond the basic use to model, to lead, and design AII learning experiences. McGrath in 2023 reminds us that lifelong learning is critical. As educators, we must remain current with rapidly evolving tools. And according to Hudson in 2024, professional learning communities provide the production and maintenance of an inclusive, supportive, and encouraging community environment. As Beetham Gallant and Redinger in 2025 reminds us, you can't design academic misconduct out of your class, but you can certainly design it in it, which means you have to stop and pay attention as a curriculum developer, as a faculty leader, which leads us to the AI inclusion framework that was inspired by the modules in Hargrave, Fisher, and Frey's 2025 book, the Artificial Intelligence Playbook, time-saving tools for teachers that make learning more engaging. By educating the AII as a systems-based philosophy, educators are then encouraged to see AI integration as interconnected, where tools, learner needs, and instructional decisions form a dynamic adaptive system. There are 9 inclusion pathways created as a result of this study. One, the inclusion of partners. It takes well-informed villages to capture the best AI practices. And we must continue to be lifelong learners where individuals stay relevant in their field and keep up with the changes in the trends and adapts to ambiguity. And as Greek philosopher Plutarch is quoted, and I love this, the mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. Two, how do we safeguard academic integrity in a world where generative AI can produce essays that mimic human style with uncanny accuracy? By putting educators in the loop. The U.S. Department of Education in 2023 highlighted the importance of the educator's role in responsible AI implementation. And I quote the Department of Education, "We call upon all constituents to adapt humans in the loop as key criterion for educational use in AI." So number three, curriculum development is not a static process. It should evolve and reflect our ongoing commitment as educators to a changing world. Educators should consider AI as a thought partner within your PLC. AI is a sound starting place for educators to consider creative and innovative ways to create a revised curriculum that includes AI activities as part of the instructional content. 4, educators can lead students to knowledge, but they can't make them learn. The real art of teaching is making them thirsty for the lesson, wanting them to know and understand more by fostering an engaging environment for learning. It's important to foster background knowledge as connected learning promotes purpose and engagement. Learning should be relevant. Educators can use AI to create relevant lessons based on background knowledge to ensure students make multiple recommendations that offer more choices for students. Giving choices promotes engagement, learning, and leads to more applicable content for the learner. So number 5, universal design. Every classroom is a mix of unique learners, each bringing distinct experiences, abilities, and interests. Educators must find ways to connect with this diversity while ensuring that every student continues to grow. Today, emerging AI tools can assist educators in this process by helping identify student strengths, personalized learning, materials, support, differentiated instructions more efficiently and more effectively. Using AI to help set high expectations is also a benefit. When teachers have high expectations for all students, achievement is likely to increase substantially. So the key point being all students are lifted up when we use AI to assist in differentiated learning experiences. 6, AI prompt writing. It's a growing field, and the most recent employment data indicates, I'm going to have to say that again. AI prompt writing is a growing field. Imagine that, a field where somebody hires you to write prompts for AI. Now I'll continue. The most recent employment data indicates significant growth in demand for generative AI training among both individual learners and enterprises. And 2 countries, I'm going off script here, 2 countries lead the way in that: India and the United States. The prompts we write serve as a bridge between human creativity and the responsible use of AI. Writing prompts should drive the results, be of high quality, of purpose, include the role of AI, the output expectation, as well as consideration of emotional prompting. Number 7, the iterative feedback. The iterative feedback is captured through timeliness. The type of feedback provided and the specifics of information given. Feedback is a key part of how students learn and improve. Feedback gives direction and helps them see their next steps. Educators have always known the value of good feedback. It is an important part of what makes learning work. It's often discussed in research and training and classroom practices, yet given effective feedback remains one of the most difficult tasks. If the feedback is to be meaningful, it remains one of the most difficult tasks. You can give feedback and it not be meaningful. In considering AI inclusion, as one example, a product called Brisk, an AI-aligned Google extension, is one example of an AI platform educators can use for feedback assistance. And number 8, the ongoing assessment is not a one-time process. And education must invest in developing AI-resistant assessments such as open-ended questions, different perspectives, problem solving, critical thinking, and authentic real-world applications. Assessment helps educators see what students understand and what still needs improvement. It connects teaching and learning in a practical way. Every educator has their own approach to giving feedback, shaped by experience and classroom needs. Artificial intelligence can support this process by helping teachers review student progress, give faster feedback, and create fair, personalized ways to measure learning. And number 9, the last one, by the way, number 9, the idea of future proofing is common in technology and in design PLCs, but is still emerging in educational circles. According to an interview, this is real important. According to an interview between Harvard Business Review 2023 and Harvard Business School professor Kareem Lakhani, and I quote Kareem, "What I say to managers, leaders, and workers is AI is not going to replace humans, but humans with AI are going to replace humans without AI." So to future-proof means to plan for change by creating something that can adapt as the need evolves. In classrooms, this means looking beyond the present moment to anticipate what skills and tools learners need later. While today's AII continue to evolve rapidly, educators must also act rapidly. Preparing learners for an AII driven world means designing the classrooms that can adapt to new tools and technologies while maintaining strong human connections. By future-proofing education and focusing on creativity, critical thinking, and the ethical use of the technology, educators can ensure learning remains meaningful no matter what the future holds. And in everything we do, there are limits. And in my study, there are limits to the study. Conceptual research studies, and that's what I did, a conceptual research study of AI inclusion. It relies on existing literature, professional guidance, and best practices, which may look different depending on the institution, the technology available, or the learners that are being served. Now, this study is limited in that its focus was not on AI per se, but on an inclusion-based approach to artificial intelligence inclusion, presented here as the Artificial Intelligence Inclusion Philosophy, AIIP. Future research should empirically test how this philosophy impacts student success, equity, and learning outcomes in diverse educational settings. By presenting AIIP, this study lays a foundation for practical application, and it encourages further empirical and theoretical explorations. To make AII effective for all students, educators, and institutions, well, the institutions must adopt intentional strategies grounded in equity, accessibility, and student-centered learning. These recommendations operationalize AII as a guiding philosophy of education, ensuring that AI integration is ethical, inclusive, and transformative. And in doing so, this study reflects 5 recommendations. Provide faculty development on AI inclusion. Professional learning should combine technical AI skills with strategies for inclusive and ethical instruction. Training equips educators to enact the principles of AII in their teaching. Number 2, establish institutional policies that align with inclusion. You can find institutional policies about AI, and there's a little bit of mention about inclusion. What it should be is a hard, solid policy about the expectation of it being included, and then pathways to how it can be included. Number 3, incorporate student feedback. Well, we already do that at the University of Arizona Global Campus. We have course surveys. It's more than that. Regularly gathering student perspectives specifically on AI tools. When's the last time we did that? On AI tools, inclusion influences their student success, their equity, and their learning outcomes. So evidence from such research will inform best practices and validate the philosophy and practice and guide a broader adaptation of how we can best use it when we listen to our students. And we listen to our students by specifically asking them about it. So number 4, conduct empirical research on AII's impact. Studies should investigate how AI inclusion influences student success, equity, and learning outcomes. Evidence from such research will inform best practices, validate the philosophy in practice, and guide a broader adoption of that. And then number 5 is the develop the AIII certification pathway, which is different from the first one, which is provide faculty development. Well, that's one thing to train faculty, but it's another thing to say, no, we as an institution now have a certification program. Number 5, educators committed to leading in AI integration should be able to pursue recognition as artificial intelligence inclusion innovators. Certification demonstrates mastery of ethical, inclusive, and human-centered, that's a key point, human-centered AI practices based on the artificial intelligence inclusion philosophy presented and promotes leadership in AI inclusion across the institution. Now, these recommendations operationalize AII as a guiding philosophy, ensuring that AI integration is ethical, inclusive, student-centered. And again, while Hargrave et al. In 2025, they provided that practical strategies for AI integration, AII extends these strategies into a cohesive philosophy that combined ethical, equitable, and systems-based principles. By integrating forward-facing perspectives outlined in the 2025 World Economic Forum and from the 2023 Harvard Business Review, AII ensures students are prepared to thrive in an AI-driven world while maintaining human-centered learning through Salomon's positive psychology and Nelson and Lowe's emotional intelligence practices of keeping humans within the loop. In bringing forward the artificial intelligence inclusion philosophy of education, I now invite educators to move beyond concern and restriction toward a system-based approach to intentional inclusion that ensures AI serves humanity rather than the other way around. By anchoring this philosophy in systems thinking, equity framework, practical guidance, and human-centered from the current scholarship. This philosophy is positioned as a structured, evidence-informed approach to inclusive AI in education. It represents more than a set of tools. It's a mindset and a framework for teaching in a world where AI is an integral part and expectation of the learning. Through the AI, AII, AIIP, and AIII approach, educators and institutions can expand access, reduce barriers, foster belonging, while preparing students for a future in which AI functions as that partner in learning. The 9 inclusion pathways found in this philosophy provide a practical approach for implementing inclusive AI practices, for guiding educators to collaborate with partners, design engaging content, differentiate instruction, provide meaningful feedback, access student progress, and anticipate evolving technology landscapes. That concludes my conceptual research presentation on the educational philosophy of AI inclusion. So on behalf of the University of Arizona Global Campus, and specifically the College of Professional Advancement, I'm Dr. Jackie Kyger. This has truly been my pleasure to share this conceptual research with you, and I look forward to your questions.
At this time, if you'd like to unmute and ask Dr. Kyger any questions, you're welcome to.
Or you can put them in the chat. I'm watching the chat. Thank you, Diana. I appreciate that.
Dr. Kyger, did anything surprise you about as you underwent your research?
You know, the whole idea of the philosophy of this being a philosophy of education, that was not my intention when I went into this. When I went into this, I was going to try and do much like everyone else is doing and say, oh, hey, if you use AI, here's a way you might want to use it. And you heard me mention that Hargrave book several times. And that was one of my first books. And before we leave today, I'm going to go ahead and click a couple more slides down and capture my sources. I have two slides worth of sources here. That I think are very, very worthwhile in helping me when I did my review of literature on this. And so I didn't intend to say, hey, I think we have a philosophy of education here regarding AI. I think we have a new approach, because where all of this stemmed in motivating me to do this was I would hear from faculty and we would say, well, students have got to stop using AI. And I'm like, yeah, good luck with that. We as faculty would have to stop using AI if we expect our students to stop using AI. So my approach, my tongue-in-cheek approach with faculty, and I've shared this in other circles, so I'll share it here with you, is when people say, well, we can't use AI, I'm like, well, then why do you, because AI has the potential for, to let you submit work that's not authentic. And so my tongue-in-cheek argument to faculty is, why are you accepting unauthentic writing, unauthentic spelling? And they're like, probably as many of you are doing now, well, what do you mean? Well, we encourage Grammarly. We want our students to use Grammarly. We want Grammarly to correct their grammar. We want Grammarly to correct their spelling. We will accept an non-authentic Grammarly produced work. We will accept a non-authentic spelling produced work and give the credit to the student in the rubric where it talks about writing. We will check it off as distinguished because everything looked nice to us, but we have no evidence that the student really did that spelling, because if they open up any Word document, there's spell check in it. So that's my argument. If we're expecting students to not use these tools, to not use Grammarly, okay, well then we can add AI to that list of tools we're not going to let them use. But in reality, we encourage Grammarly. And I envision through the philosophy of education of artificial intelligence inclusion, we shift our educational philosophy of how we view our approach to this, and we include those 9 pathways in all 9 or some 9 in some form or fashion to say, yes, I'm adopting that philosophy of education as I approach AI. And actually, it speaks broader than that. It speaks to the new and coming technology that we yet know about. And if you think about that for a second, we've all attended TLC when none of us knew what artificial intelligence was because it's that new. So what will it look like? What will be the thing we're talking about at TLC in the next couple of years? We don't know. And so we need to shift instead of battling the elements, breaking out the umbrella, battling the weather. Instead of doing that, we need to do a little bit more forecasting of how we can maybe use it to our advantage, make it more welcoming for our learners, and adapt it within our curriculum, adapt it within how we teach, adapt it within those 9 pathways. Absolutely, Diana. Thank you for saying that. Well, I think just to Rebecca's point, I think just as we look at how we view Grammarly, and I know there's an argument, and people certainly would come off the mic and argue that Grammarly is not creating works that you can claim as your authentic self, and that is the pain point. That's the pain point with artificial intelligence when we look at generative AI, because it generates things. All these pictures I shared with you in my PowerPoint were generated by AI. I didn't draw any of them. But I also told you at the beginning of this, I had nothing to do with it, and I used AI to create it. That's the pain point. And what we should do is we should create curriculum that introduces our students to this is how writing prompts work in artificial intelligence, and this is how we can use writing prompts to our learning advantage, and treat AI for us as educators. And I mentioned this, treat AI as if it's one more person at your PLC table. Because if we went to a breakout room with educators, we would all talk and share ideas. And you can do the same thing with AI. You can go into AI and use it to brainstorm. We should show students how that's a best practice in AI. Because right now, for people who don't know anything about it, it's a way that you can just click a button and it'll do your homework for you. And that's not what it's meant to be. And Grammarly is not meant to be that way either, if you think about it. Grammarly is not meant for you not to know grammar. Grammarly is not meant for you not to know spelling. You should run your work through Grammarly and get no errors. You should. And if you get an error, now that becomes a learning moment. And then the next time and then you do it, and then you lesson. Eventually you're using Grammarly as that foolproof device. Well, let me just check it before I submit it, as opposed to, I don't know anything about it. I'll put on my blinders. I don't need to spell well because Grammarly will spell well for me. No, that's not the intention. And so we can make that same argument, I feel like, with artificial intelligence. I'm looking in the chat to see if I missed any questions. I appreciate everyone's kind words and accolades. All righty, I don't see any more there. AJ.
Dr. Kyger, it looks like Dr. Olson-Stewart had a question in there about the challenges. What do you anticipate maybe some challenges of this work in upcoming research?
Well, and that's why we want to do more. Was that Kelly? We want to do more empirical research on it to kind of test out these pathways based on this conceptual research. I concluded these 9 pathways, the research that I reviewed kind of all pointed this direction. And as I was stepping through those pathways, for those who are tightly in this education circle, you're like, yeah, PLCs are important, Jackie. We already knew that. But to an audience that may not know that, it becomes, that number one pathway, and you look at it, and then as you step through all these things, you're like, okay, there's value in that. So to me, the biggest challenge will be to see how the philosophy, as all philosophies do, evolves, and what this looks like, in a year. But the main goal of it is to stop looking at it as if this is something to perhaps show caution and resistance to in the education community, because AI is used everywhere, and we're talking about this in the educational community. And outside of AI, none of us have driven anywhere without it. It's just there, it's everywhere. And so what we have to do now is say, how do we use this as a tool that supports the direction that we're going, and that we can go there in that healthy direction. So I don't know if that actually draws out a challenge that I see, but I see all of it as exciting, and I'm ready for see which way it goes, and hopefully there'll be some more research that perhaps takes a look at these pathways. Maybe I'll do some more research in the next year. We'll just see.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'd like to thank you, Dr. Kyger, and thank you to the audience for your participation in today's session. I'm going to post the survey in the chat. It's linked to nominate TLC presentations for conference awards and share your feedback on this presentation. Thank you all for participating.